morning. This is Ladina Boo, and our show is Trials and Triumphs. This morning I have my guest, Steve McAllister. He is also a pastor here with Acts Ministries. You do with the Veterans Church.
Yes.
And you also have a show called High Octane, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Just before yours.
Yes.
I just got done.
And we have our cameraman dancing in the background, and it's just so much fun around here this morning.
Oh yeah. We're just having a dancing good time.
Yeah, we talk about very serious subjects around here, but we may not be serious ourselves some days because life is too short to be sad.
That's right. Amen to that.
Anyway, Steve has a documentary coming out, and he also has a book coming out. And what's the name of your book?
The name of the book is, it's a collaboration like Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Mm-hmm.
But the lady wanted to get several people that have gone through trials and put their story together in a chapter. So I'm in a chapter in the book. So I'm a co-author, and the name of the chapter is I'm Not My Father's Son, 12 or Steps to Freedom, actually.
Mm-hmm. Now, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first? You're married, and
Yes.
yeah,
Married to Rachel, and she's been with me for 25 years.
Well, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
a long time to be married, especially these days.
Yes, and especially to me. No, shh, Matt.
No kidding.
Yeah, we have a dog that's 4 years old. His name's Jackson, and he's a rat terrier, black lab.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a cat that she's so sweet. She's that's Tilly. She's gonna be she is 4. She just turned 4, and then Jackson will be 5 in about a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically I grew up in Michigan, the Pontiac area, and Rachel, she grew up in Ypsilanti, so we both kind of was in big cities. She grew up near the big house,
Mm-hmm.
And then I grew up around the Pontiac Silverdome. Most football players, most sports people, they know about the Silverdome. Anyway, so I would say that I grew up in a Christian home. And I had 3 other siblings, 1 brother, 2 sisters. But my brother passed away 5 years ago, and I have my 2 sisters and myself. And we've been close ever since, I guess, since our parents passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the short of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you say you've been close since your parents passed away. And I know that a lot of your testimony here has to do with your relationship with your father.
Correct.
And did your sisters have any bad relationships with your father, your brother?
Yeah, he took turns is what he did. Each one of us had our own issues with how he treated us and what he said to them and what they did. They didn't really do anything bad, and if they did, they were teenagers. But he was more of a stickler towards everybody doing things. And of course, with the girls, daughters, he was a little bit more strict, I guess, but with my brother, he married somebody that was almost twice his age when he was 18, and my dad was really upset with that, and he didn't talk to him for a while. So he took turns not talking to each one of us, but I was the one that he didn't talk to for 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else was like a year or 2, something like that. But he went through each one of us and had this non-relationship with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he treated everybody differently, but they all thought that, oh, well, I'm the baby. Boy, you don't know what you've been through. You're not being, how do you put it, or how they put it? Well, you're the baby. You haven't been treated the same way we have. Then when they saw what I went through, then they're like, we're changing our mind. Because of the way he treated me. I was the last one there, and I left when I was 21. when I went in the Navy. I was in the Navy, and that kind of separated us for a while. But then it wasn't until after I got out back before I met Rachel. Then it was like during that 9 year period of the first 9 years that I was married to Rachel, um, or the last, 4 or 5 years that I was with her, I mean, with my dad. It was really complicated with her, and she would go into these like, I don't feel very good, but she was so stressed because of what he was doing to me and how he was treating me that she just couldn't stand being around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems to happen a lot in families. Personally, I've not spoken with my mother in over 20 years because of the way she acted when I was growing up. And I'm always disturbed by the number of parents that find it okay to bully their children. They have enough things to deal with in life outside of the home.
Right.
Schools are full of bullies. The streets are full of bullies. You got gang members everywhere. You've
Church.
got church has a lot of bullies.
That's why I went through that.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about your growing up time and your relationship with your father and how all that came about?
Well, like I said, I grew up in a Christian home, and I went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. Not every time the doors were open, but my dad, he was a Sunday school superintendent back when I was real young, and then he was a head usher as I grew up throughout the church.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we went on vacations. We grew up going to Florida back and forth, back and forth. My sisters kind of stayed out of the picture except for a couple times. And then my brother and I kind of went back and forth to Florida with my parents. But it was really tough because my dad was a stickler for rules and regulations. And if he didn't think we should be doing it, we didn't do it. Or if he saw us slipping up, it wasn't just a slip up. It was like spanking for me.
Yeah.
And he really ruled the roost, and he put his fist down on a lot of things my brother did as a teenager. It's a typical teenager thing that we both did, but he didn't see it that way. And then we find out that after he passed away, that he'd been married twice before.
Okay.
And so then all of a sudden the lights came on, and we started finding out things that we didn't expect to hear. And it was like, okay, now Rachel even said there's a pattern there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't think nothing much of it at first until I saw all this evidence. And I was like, well, he even drank.
Mm-hmm.
He drank for a while, and then he would get mad at my brother, or he would get mad at my nephew. Well, he's drinking and he shouldn't be doing that. Well, of course, at the time, we didn't know that he was an alcoholic himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'd been drinking, and with these two marriages that he had, it was just horrendous how he treated them. So now we're like, okay, now we know why he treated us the way he did. It was just in his nature to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what happened. He became what we say is narcissist. I'm sure you know what a narcissist.
Oh, yes.
Well, my sister even said that way back when, but it wasn't brought up again until my mom went to the doctor, and so the doctor was really questioning my mom, and we didn't think about it. Well, she ended up going to a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, there's something really wrong. There's a red flag there about how my dad treated her in the last few years that they were both alive. And so then we're really putting the piece of the puzzle together. And that's what happened is he was a narcissist, and he just took my mom and used her for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they were together for 60 years.
Oh, wow. That's a long time. Especially when he'd been married twice before.
Yeah, 60 years. And the marriages before didn't last probably but a year or two. Mm-hmm. I don't think they lasted very long at all. That was back in the 1930s.
Yeah.
And so I guess that I don't know how long marriages lasted back then, but I'm just saying that was back in the 30s for them. I guess I'm saying a lot because I'm nervous. I don't know why. I'm sitting here with you, and I shouldn't be nervous.
No, you should not be so nervous. So,
No.
yeah.
So the growing up part with my dad was he was strict on everything had to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the lawn mowing. If and he picked on my brother a lot for this too, they had to be straight lines. And with dry grass, right with us having the drought and everything, dry grass, you could see the lines.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see where I went off here and there, like off the line. He's like, you got to mow that again in straight line. It's like, I just mowed it. No, well, you're going to have to mow it again because there needs to be a straight line. So the next time you mow it, it needs to be straight line. I don't care if it takes you till dark. And I'm like, well, you're going to give me a flashlight. I was not trying to be smart, but I'm like, well, I'm going to need a flashlight. And he smacked me for it because he said I was being smart.
I need a flashlight at night too. I do have a headlight on my lawnmower, but it
But
doesn't light up
but
things bright enough for me to get through.
I was just going to say, isn't that a riding lawnmower?
Yes, it is.
So
I've pushed one an awful lot, but I never could walk a straight line.
well,
I'd be in trouble weekly.
Yep, exactly. So that's one big thing that he really had power over us, and yet he was a head usher at the church. And every time my mom would come after church, I'm switching over to church now for a minute. He would say, well, we got to get going. We got to get going. Are you coming home with us or are you going to go with your friends? Oh, I'm going with my friends. Well, okay. Well, hurry up, honey. Or mom, mother, come on. He was always in a rush to get home. But then when it came to my friends when it came to friends at my house,
Mm-hmm.
he would say, well, I don't want you going in the backyard playing baseball or anything because it's wearing down the grass. That was like a diamond shape. You could see where we ran the bases, and you could see where it affected the grass. And I was like, well, where are we going to play? Well, can't you play down the street? It's like, where down the street? And so that's how particular he was. And with my friends, he was like, well, what are they doing here? They're here to play or they're here to talk to me. Well, you've got chores to do.
Mm-hmm.
He just said that basically. And he would actually put me to work after I said, oh, well, you were just talking. He goes, no, you got chores to do. I'm like, but you just, I was really confused a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And here I felt like I was being bullied because he wasn't physically beating me, but he was verbally putting me down on things that I would do that he didn't think was right. Like I was so nervous in front of him by changing a tire that I put the tire on backwards. And I was that shaking. He goes, I can't believe you're so dumb as to put a tire on backwards. You need to turn that. And a friend of his that he was standing there, he kind of looked at me and went, and I was like, he didn't know what to say. He's like, I can't believe your dad told you how dumb you were well, I was nervous to begin with by putting a tire on.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it on backwards, and I know how to put a tire on. And I just happened to put it on backwards for some reason. I guess I was nervous. And so he put me down for that. He would put me down for a lot of things, or he would get upset with me if I didn't know a math problem. And he'd say, I can't believe that you said that number. And I'm like, Dad, it's okay. Chill out.
Give me a minute. I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out. And my mom would say, you know what? I'll help you. No, he needs to do it on his own. And I was up at midnight and 12 o'clock. I'm doing this, trying to do my homework because he kept on interrupting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he said, you get that done. I don't care how long. I don't care if you're up here all night.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's his way of bullying me. And then I would go to school. And because I had a learning disability, I would have problems. I would get really nervous and I'd start chewing pencils down to the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And the teachers were really getting concerned about that. And it was because of all the stress at home.
Yeah.
So they noticed that I was having this learning disability. And so they said, we're going to bring a psychiatrist in or a psychologist in to test your son to find out what exactly is going on.
Right.
Well, the kids saw that and they looked in the window and saw me playing with the blocks, doing the block thing. And they're laughing outside the door. So when I got out during recess, I got it.
Of course.
I got pushed around. I got told you're a retard, things like that.
Children can be evil.
Yes, they can be. I've been around a lot. When I was in junior church, when I was a junior church director and saw that, I could see how evil they can be.
Yep. I've got, my daughter has 3 children and 2 of them are autistic. And so my grandson is bullied unmercifully at school. And, we switched schools with him. And then after his 4th grade year, where he finally learned to read, thank you very much, he managed to make a few friends. And he was one that would always stand up for his friends if somebody was picking on him or touching somebody that said, don't touch me. He became quite the little advocate for his friends and, would tell people, leave him alone, push their hand off and this and that and the other thing. And I'm a little concerned as he gets older that might turn into him being a bully, especially with the autism.
That's what I hear is that the bullies that have been bullied, they turn around and do the same thing. Like Columbia, the high school.
Columbine, yeah.
Columbine. That's what happened. They were bullied and they turn around and they do the same thing. But I'm not that bad. I went the other way.
Yeah, but he's a lover. I think that we're going to homeschool him. Next route, we're going with homeschooling just to make sure that he doesn't develop those particular violent tendencies.
Yeah, so growing up with him was a real, and I don't know if I should use the word challenge or something more because I was frightened to come home, and I actually wet the bed till I was 6 years or into the 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was so nervous around him and I didn't know whether he was going to come home from work in a good mood or a bad mood. And if it was a good mood, for some reason, I'd change that into a bad mood. I don't know. So, or if he did come home in a bad mood, it'd even be worse for me. Mm-hmm. So he would at times make me, he'd be standing right there, but he said, take those clippers and go out and mow the lawn. And I thought, I laughed at him. I went, yeah, right. He goes, you think I'm joking? I was like, you're joking. He goes, take the clippers and go outside and start clipping around the poles. And I'm like, oh, that. I'm like, come on, really? And my mom was like, come on, you're serious, aren't you? And he's like, you're doggone right I am. And my poor mom, she was trying to be the peacekeeper and the prayer warrior. And she would constantly be praying that my dad would just calm down on me. Mm-hmm. But I was getting switched with a switch at 6-7 years old. Mm-hmm. I was
going to cut your own switch always hurt a lot.
Yep. I don't want a branch. I don't want a branch. I want a twig, something that's really gonna get the job done. But then my mom. One of the things that my dad was really upset with my sister on was calling her son a gay or a girl's name Jamie, but Jamie's a guy's name. Yeah. But it's James, obviously, but it was Jamie. And I think there was some other underlying issues that I can't remember that he was upset with her about. And he wouldn't even go to the hospital to see his grandson, brand new grandson. And so that kind of put a divide. Well, he said, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Well, he didn't say anything to me about not talking to her or my mom, but he knew that my mom would secretly talk to her. And so I was on the phone one day, and he's outside in the garage. We had a phone outside in case my mom couldn't hear the phone. Mm-hmm. He would answer it. Well, he's outside sharpening the lawnmower blade. You know where this is going, don't you? And so I was on the phone, and he picked it up, and I didn't hear anything. Obviously, when he picked it up and I'm talking to him, all of a sudden I hear boom, 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 boom through the house. he takes that lawnmower blade, swings open my door, takes a chunk out of the wood of the door, and throws the phone, grabs the phone, throws it against the TV, damages the TV. And my sister's like, hello, hello, hello. You know you're not supposed to be talking to your sister. I am. You're going to get it now. Well, he didn't bother just dropping the blade. I automatically put and I'm like 12, 13. I can't remember exactly. I know I was a young teenager. I put my hands behind my back and he goes, don't put your hands behind your back. And I'm like, why? And he goes, you know why? To spank me. And I'm figuring the flat part of the blade. Well,
got the edge, didn't you?
Got the edge and got
Probably
my
the one
hand.
he just sharpened. The edge he just sharpened.
Yes, and I thought my hand was gone because when I felt something wet, I was like, I looked, and all of a sudden I just started crying, going, and my mom come running in. She goes, "What did you do?" My hand was like open, and I said, "I want to report him to the police." Child abuse, and I want to report him to the police. And my mom, no, don't do that, because then all of a sudden he'd be in jail,
right?
And of course, then if I went to the hospital, how did this happen? And with abuse, and you already know the situation there.
Yeah.
And too many times actually. So that's what happened. That was the biggest abuse that I had from him. He didn't even bother saying I'm sorry, didn't hold the blade. And my mom tried to push him out of the bedroom. And he said, I bet you won't do this, or I bet you'll listen to me the next time. You never told me not to talk to my sister.
Yeah.
And so it was that was an abuse in itself. And then he would go to church the next day, or he would go to church and act like nothing happened. But he looked at me and he'd say, you know what, you need to sit with us today in church. Okay. Because he knew that if I was with my friends, I might start talking.
Right.
And so when I would be talking to my friends, he would grab me and say, you need to come with me. And my friends were all like, what's going on? I don't know. He was so afraid that I was going to be starting to say something about what happened to my hand that he didn't want me talking to any of my friends at church again.
Like I say, he's probably related to my mother. No, we can't let her to go to school today, and we can't take her to the hospital because we beat her so bad she passed out on the floor, and they'll call the cops. So, we can't do this.
Yeah. Oh, what's those bruises on you? What's that big gash? What?
Yeah.
I never got stitches for it. It healed on its own. I don't have it anymore, but that scar was there for a while, but it kind of faded, and I don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
But that was one of the many things. And then I thought, man, I got to get out of this. So eventually, my nephew, who went into the service before I did, just came home and said, Dave, he said, I really enjoy the Navy. So long story short, my dad's like, well, why don't you go in the service? That would be a really good idea.
Yep.
To get rid of being around him. So I did. Well, I went through the training later to find out that they diagnosed me 9 months later while I was in the Navy. I went through boot camp, graduated from boot camp, but very, very had a hard time physically and couldn't understand what was going on. Well, you've been diagnosed with cerebral palsy. What? And so they're like, well, it's peacetime and we have the money, but we can't place you anywhere. So the best thing for you to do is just get honorably discharged, but we can't pay you anything because your problem existed prior to you entering. Well, isn't that what the checkup in the beginning of is for?
Right.
Right. Well, all they said was I had to have a back consult, and they found out I have a little curvature. Oh, well, everybody has a curve in the spine. Yeah, we'll pass you through. And I had so many physical problems going through the Navy, and my nephew, I just wanted to quit. My nephew, who was actually across the street in another, it wasn't boot camp. He was at A school or something. He was able to come across the street and say, Steve, don't quit, don't quit, don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa's gonna really be upset if you quit. I'm like, I know, I got to get through this. But I can't handle this. He's the one that talked me into finishing
Mm-hmm.
the rest of my boot camp, and then I got into the Navy, and I was on ship and everything. And then, of course, 9 months later, I'm being told that.
Right.
So I told my pediatricians that when I got home, they're like, cerebral palsy. Don't you think we would have told your parents a long time ago about this? And so I'm thinking I've got this cerebral palsy, and I tried so many times to try to see if I could get some benefits.
Mm-hmm.
No benefits because I signed a paper saying that I wouldn't come back on the Navy for anything. I was thinking suit. I wasn't thinking I can't get benefits out of them because I signed a paper. I
Right.
thought I was just signing a paper saying that I wouldn't sue them,
Yeah.
trying to get money out of them that way. I At the time I didn't know. So later on, I get out of the Navy and I'm getting some help, physical therapy, and getting some help. But I'm telling you what, growing up with my dad, there were so many scenarios that I could give that he bullied me, and then I went to school and got bullied because of that situation I told you about earlier. And then I would go to church and get bullied by some of the high school kids when I was in junior high. They threw me off the hay wagon and threw me into a mud puddle,
Mm-hmm.
and they thought that that was funny. And here, one of them now is a senior pastor of a Baptist church. We all grow up. They were like 17, 18, and here I am 11, 12, and on this hay wagon thinking it's funny. But anyway, so I was surrounded by being bullied.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just challenge anybody that's been bullied, whether it's been at home, at church, at school, that the Lord is always with you. He'll always be there by your guide. If you're a Christian and you know that you've been saved, God's closer than a brother. Believe me, He's there with you. You just got to reach out and pray, reach out to Him and say, Lord, help me.
Right. And people don't seem to understand how much damage can be done by a parent. I've known lots and lots of kids. I took 90 of them into my house, actually over 90 these days.
Wow.
But their parents would just kick them out. All they had was clothes on their back. They may be 14, 15 years old. And I could never stand a child being on the street that way, and then other ones, their parents were like, no, I can't get a decent job because of whatever reason. So you have to quit school and get a job to support your mama or whatever. And it's like, no, that's not right. I said, come over to my house. My one big rule, other than don't lie to me and don't steal from me, was everybody leaves with a high school diploma. I don't care what you do after you leave my house, but you will graduate before leaving my house. And that was really difficult because they'd been abused by their parents for so long and told they were stupid and telling me, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. And that's not the case. If somebody's bullying you and telling you you're stupid, you don't have to listen to that.
No.
You know your own self. If you're got issues or something. My grandson, he'll flat tell you I'm autistic. That's why I do things the way I do. And, he's good with that.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody seems afraid to say what's going on in their world. If I'd said anything about what was going on in my house, I'd be dead by now. And I know that. My mother would have buried me in the backyard. You do not talk about the abuse, or whether it's verbal, physical, or sexual abuse. It seems like parents just want to make sure that it all stays quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's true.
I have nothing against church people. I go to church every week. I'm a pastor, but I was always surprised by the amount of people in the church that were hurting their children and then putting on this different face on a Sunday morning.
Exactly.
You've got to walk a true walk. And whenever you're doing that, you're not walking a good walk with God.
No.
You can't just pick and choose what you want to believe
he
in.
put out a big front in front of a lot of people that said, "Why, you should be more nicer to your dad, or you need to just be nice to your dad. He means well," but they didn't know what went on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tried to tell them, it's like, "Your dad? No, not your dad." That's what that's the excuse that they give. They think in the back of their mind, I wonder. But then they're like telling me for like, "Oh, your dad's not like that."
Yeah.
Until they started seeing later on in years and before he started getting really bad, they saw how he was grabbing my mom, saying, "Come on, come on." They're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, you need to be a little bit easier on on your wife or on Ada."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Oh, she doesn't feel that. No, she does.
Yep.
She just never was. She was so scared to say anything. She
And
just
she
never
probably
did."
had bruises she wouldn't allow anybody to see, also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, but he didn't. He grabbed her just enough, and she was so petite that it left marks on
Mm-hmm.
her, but just marks like up and just grab here. It
Right.
wasn't any bruises anywhere else. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
he never abused her, never physically abused her, but just mentally would say things and then accuse us as, "Look what you're doing to your mother. Look what you're doing to your mother."
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we got in trouble. It's like, "I can't believe you're doing it," because she would be upset. Well, she was upset with my dad,
Mm-hmm.
but he blamed it on
Yeah.
us kids. And the other thing is I got to tell you that the puppet ministry I was starting to get involved with in junior high, he would laugh at that and just smile or laugh at that and go, "You need to stop playing with dolls." Well,
Okay. I've seen what some of the greatest ministries were puppet ministries.
mhm. And so we were part of a junior church thing where my friend Mark and I did did a puppet show, and um, he didn't think nothing of it. Well, this little girl came to know the Lord through our puppet ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Many kids have throughout the different places we've been to have come to know the Lord through our puppet ministry. And he just looked at it as dolls until somebody across the street, we ended up going to their church because he was a junior church director, and he saw what we did, and he came back and he said, "Chuck, if you only knew what your son is capable of doing,
Mm-hmm.
what a ministry he has, we'd like to present you $100 from on behalf of the church." My dad's like, "You're paying him $100?" "Yes, he's worth more than that, but that's all we've got."
Mm-hmm.
And my dad just got quiet, and he was like, "Oh, well, that didn't really change him." For a couple of days, it was like he was stunned that I got paid.
Yeah.
But we put that into the ministry. It wasn't for me. We
Mm-hmm.
put that back in the ministry. And so I've been involved with that. And so when I tell people, or when I tell kids or young people involved in puppets, don't ever let anybody tell you you're playing with dolls or that's stupid or
Mm-hmm.
when, because a lot of times you're that person behind that puppet. You're just hiding your feelings, but you're putting it through your puppet.
Right.
And so don't ever let anybody tell you that.
Yeah. It's not playing with dolls. You're doing what God has commanded. You're trying to bring others to Christ. And the state of our world right now needs, we need more kids coming to Christ. The
Mm-hmm.
public school systems diluting them all, and hiding things from parents. When the government comes out and says, our children are not our own, and they want control of them from age 3 up,
Right.
so they can brainwash them to their way of thinking. You've always got to, watch out for that stuff. And Matt's waving at us.
Hi, Matt.
He's waving the 5-minute mark.
Darn.
But you've got to, understand. Teach these children what the Bible really says. Teach these children the way they're supposed to be treated. Teach these children that if somebody's doing something bad to you, or they're hitting you, or they're telling lots of lies or whatever, even if it's your own folks,
Mm-hmm.
find somebody to listen. I'm sure so you can find somebody that will listen and understand. We all get this picture in our mind of the church ushers or whatever the case may be, but that may not be the true individual. I've met some people I thought were amazing Christians, and have them turn around and walk the other direction on the street just because of the way I looked that particular day or something.
Yeah, they're embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a lot of friends in church. I did have a good core of friends that knew my dad and knew the way that he was treating us, and they were there for me, but they were praying for my mom. But they were around me and trying to surround me and let them know that, hey, we're your friends. We're here to pray for you. We're here to hang out. And there was one couple that are one of the kids' parents. We went to their church on Sunday night afterwards, and they just became our parents,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's parents, and or the kids' parents. And well, just call us mom, call us dad. And so I think everybody has those
Mm-hmm.
parents that just fall in love with the kids and they want them to be around them all the time. So, but just to hang around with people that you know and trust and know that they're going to be having your back.
Mm-hmm. And nobody knows what goes on behind somebody's closed doors. And, you and your brothers and sisters went through it. I'm sure your mother went through it. He was probably never physically violent with her, except, trying to pull her out of the church or whatever the case may be. But, she hurt. Did you ever talk to your mother about all of it after you got older? Or
Yeah, we did. We had a lot of talks, and she just said, "I'm so sorry you went through what you went through." And so she was so secretive, and she would try to come down to the house. When Rachel and I, obviously, after we got married, we ended up in a house that my aunts gave to my mom, and she deeded it to us. But anyway, she would come down to the house, and she would just tell us things that were going on back at the house. And she said, "Is there anything that you're really?" She actually, her and I got into a conversation to where she said, "I'm so sorry that things happen. What exactly? Why do you? Are you still mad at Dad?" And I went, "No, I forgive him,"
Mm-hmm.
because I started growing up and realizing that if I don't forgive him, my prayers are going to be hindered.
Right.
And so, but I said, "I'm praying for you because now you're the one that's at home by yourself with him."
Mm-hmm.
And so he wanted her all to himself. And that finally happened. So we couldn't interrupt that.
Right.
We were not told to come to the house because he wanted her to himself. Poor thing.
Violence. Violence beating up my microphone this morning.
But anyway, I just really praise the Lord that he got me through what he did so that I can go out there and tell others that are going through what I did back then, that I can turn around and pray for them and be there for them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So if somebody asks you to pray for them, make sure you do it. That's a promise to God that you are going to pray for this person. So don't let down God and don't let down your friends. And if you're going through something and you need somebody to talk to, you can call the Acts Ministry office. You can call Steve McAllister. You can call me if you want to. I'm in the phone book. And, we just want everybody to understand that no matter what you go through, there is a way out and a way that's better. So have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.